Hi everyone, welcome to the LinCam TV show. I'm your host, Cassie Vitale, and I'm pleased that I have two wonderful people joining me today. I have Kathy Lique here and David Cobb. And for those of you who may not know David Cobb, there's so many different things that you have done. You've been an activist, you are involved with the group Move to Amend, and you also had run previously for the presidential election as a green ticket candidate. So thank you both for being here. Kathy, I know you've done a lot to keep things moving when David's not in the area and to get things really grounded here, to work with Move to Amend here in the area. So thank you for being here. And if I could just sort of start off for people who maybe don't know as much about you, they may know your name, David, but not know a whole lot about what you do. Can you talk about your involvement over these last several years?
Sure, Cassie, and thanks. And let's just be honest, that the very fact that we're having this conversation and that they're hearing from us is because we're on community television here in Lynn, which is non-corporately filtered news, information, analysis, education, etc. So it's my honor to be here, but many of your viewers probably don't know I ran for president of the United States because corporations have taken over most of the media. You know, NBC isn't just NBC, it's General Electric Corporation. Mm-hmm. ABC is the Disney Corporation. CBS is the Westinghouse Corporation. So most folks probably don't know who I am, but I have had an entire lifetime of dedicated activism to try to make the promise of a democratic republic a reality in the United States. As a lawyer, I've sued corporate polluters. I have lobbied elected officials. I've run for public office myself, obviously as a Green Party candidate. I've also been engaged in nonviolent civil disobedience, the same way that Martin Luther King Jr. or Rosa Parks or others have been willing to do. The point is that I've had an entire lifetime of trying to dedicate myself to making the promise of the principles and values of this country actually come to life. And that's why I'm here in Lynn, Massachusetts, and why I'm so excited to be touring across Massachusetts and New England for 3 weeks as part of Move to Amend.
I know you're speaking this week at North Shore Community College, which I'm sure is an exciting thing for a lot of the students and the faculty there. Do you feel like it's important for you to go and speak publicly like that as many places as you can?
Well, Cassie, I want to be very clear. I actually typically target community colleges, universities, even high schools, because I believe that getting two young people to not just engage them to vote, because just pulling a lever is not a very powerful expression, but to get us involved in a social movement. And that's the reason I'm so happy to be here with Kathy. And Kathy is the one who helped to set up an amazing thing that we're going to do here in Lynn at the community college.
So Kathy, how did you go about getting involved with this organization and then also, or this coalition, Move to Amend, and also with the college and having him speak there? Did you find that you were able to really pull that together smoothly?
Yes, they were a big help.
They were.
Still are being. I started all this about a year ago when I got an email saying would I have a house party about it. And I remember the Citizens United decision 2 years ago by the Supreme Court. I found very distressing that corporations were people and could give all the money that they wanted to and had free speech rights. But I didn't know what to do. So I started with a house party, and that's grown over the last year into North Shore Move to Amend, which covers communities from Lynn to Newburyport. Mm-hmm. We've been able to pass resolutions in about 9 different communities. First place that got passed was in Lynn.
Oh, great.
And then we decided the next thing was to try and demonstrate the people's voice by getting a question on as many ballots as possible this fall. So we worked through the spring to collect signatures to get a question about calling for Congress to send an amendment to the states to address this issue. And we've succeeded in getting it on the ballots in 8 legislative districts on the North Shore. And that includes Steve Walsh's district, Essex 11, and Lori Ehrlich's district, which is Marblehead, Swampscott, and a piece of Lynn. So I hope everybody will pay attention when they go to the polls and look for question 4.
Question 4,
yep.
Okay.
And then the event itself, we decided to try and do that this fall because of the question. And I'm very glad that the community college agreed to have it and that it's in Lynn, because Move to Amend has a real commitment to reaching out to all different populations. And Lynn certainly is a leader in having all different kinds of populations. So the event will be open to anyone who wants to come, and it's in the gym at the community college at 7 on Friday.
I really want to go. Just talking to David for a few minutes makes you want to talk to him all day, I think, and you probably feel similarly. And I think it will be a great opportunity for people to come out. So anyone can come out to the event. So I want to encourage people at home that if you'd like to come and hear David speak there. But, you know, talking today, when you mentioned Lynn's a diverse community, it is, and we try to represent that here with community television. But what would you want people to know as far as their rights to having their voices heard? Because I think sometimes people don't even really know what their rights are supposed to be.
Well, as a lawyer, I can tell you, if you don't know your rights, you can't exercise them. And if you know your rights but you don't exercise them, then you don't have them. So I think that's an important question. And if I could, Cassie, I want to back up just one step first and really underscore, Move to Amend is not an organization. We are a coalition. And it is a multiracial, multi-ethnic coalition of groups and individuals from across the country. You know, we didn't even exist as a coalition before 2000. Today, we have over 250,000 people actively participating. I've never worked on anything that grew that fast. But not only that, we have several thousand organizations that have endorsed our effort. We have several hundred organizations that are actually got their shoulder to the wheel, really engaged in the process. And even deeper, we have over 135 local affiliates, like the North Shore affiliate. There are, I think, 5 or 6 in Massachusetts, about 135 across the country, and we continue to grow. Move to Amend is a coalition that is dedicated to the idea that only human beings have inherent and alienable constitutional rights. Now that's important because if you have a constitutional right, it means that government can infringe upon your rights. Local, state, or federal government should not be able to tell you that you can't express your political opinion. And I stand with you on that. But that's because you're a human being, Cassie. It's because our camera people, our studio folks, you, the viewer, are people with constitutional rights. The outrageousness of what this Supreme Court has done is to say that corporations, concentrated capital, has inherent and alienable constitutional rights and therefore have the right to overturn local, state, and even federal laws designed to control corporate power. Laws designed to control and protect the environment. Laws designed to protect workers. Laws designed to protect the public health and safety. And most egregiously, as Kathy just pointed out in the Citizens United case, laws designed to protect the integrity of our elections are being overturned, and that's the reason why a small ruling elite have hijacked all of our institutions, and your viewers know it as well as I do, that there is a small group of people in this country who have hijacked the media, hijacked the education, hijacked the politics, hijacked everything, and they're ruling over us. And I'm going to be very clear about this, Cassie. These large corporations are not just exercising power, they are ruling us. As surely as masters once ruled slaves or kings once ruled subjects, unelected and unaccountable corporations are ruling us. And if this little rant is making sense to you, the viewer, right now, go to the website www.movetoamend.org and join the 250,000 and plus Americans who are saying we're going to find ways to work together and do something about it.
Do you feel like for people who maybe haven't really recognized how fully this may be happening, do you think that the money going to different things also creates a filter? For example, you used the example of you being here today. Do you feel like when someone's watching a major network for news that it's being slanted based on who runs it? Because I feel like I have my views on that, and I think I know a lot of people who do, but I feel like some people maybe don't realize, well, is that really happening, and why would that be happening? And
well, and I'm glad you bring this up, Cassie, and I think it's important to recognize that I talked about how all the sectors of society are being hijacked, and media is one of those sectors, but media is a really important one because the way corporate media works is they don't like censor us, but they tell us what to think about, and they give us the information by which we frame things. And as a result, they really are slanting it. And I want to be clear, I don't think the media is either liberal or conservative on principle. I think the media is corporate. which is to say, when you're watching television or listening to radio, the business model is not to entertain you or to give you information. The business model is to rent access to your eyes, your ears, your thought process by advertisers. So the big corporations are all about just creating a consumer materialist culture. You almost never hear real conversations, even on the talking head programs that are supposed to pass for public affairs and commentary. And you know that because, frankly, the best public affairs commentary is happening on community access televisions across the country.
I mean, I've always said what I like so much about the community channel is that we can give you the information and we can talk, and it's not where I have to be anyone's puppet, really. And unfortunately, you do see a lot of that, I think, in terms of maybe not every organization, but when you watch news or you read an article, there are a lot of times where that does come into play. So I'm not saying it's always the case, but
but too often it is the case.
Yes.
And the important thing there, Cassie, is that it becomes an ideology. And the ideology says that only if you are within this narrow spectrum are you allowed on corporate media. So even though everything that I and Kathy have been saying, I bet most of your viewers agree with. In fact, I don't want to embarrass him, but your prime camera person was shaking his fist in the air whenever I was, laying it out, right? I mean, and I find that a lot, that ordinary folks who don't normally care about politics, when they actually hear somebody talking for real, and getting it real with politics, they get excited about it, right? But those kinds of conversations never take place in the corporate media because it's not allowed. And I want to also say this. Principled liberals have been lied to and sold out by the ruling elite of the Democratic Party, just as surely as principled conservatives have been lied to and sold out by the ruling elite of the Republican Party. What's exciting to be about Move to Amend, Cassie? We've got liberals and conservatives. We've got Democrats and Republicans. We've got Greens and Libertarians. We've got independents. We are bringing people together to say, let's get away from this partisan label stuff and just talk about what it would take to actually make the United States of America a functioning democratic republic where we the people are sovereign, where we the people rule ourselves, but agree that no local, state, or federal government can actually infringe upon the constitutional rights of any human being. If we can agree on that, then you can join us at Move to Amend, and we are having amazing success in bringing lots of people together around that specific targeted message.
What about, now Kathy, that makes me lead to you, what really struck you the most about Move to Amend as far as getting involved with them? I know you said that one decision really kind of sparked you to want to do something, but what made you know that this was the group that would, this coalition, where there's all these different people coming together by group, that's what I mean, and that made you want to be a part of it?
Well, I suppose in large part it's because of being raised in a democracy and being trained about what that means and being inspired about what that means. Sometimes I worry that kids these days don't get that much by way of education in civics. But to me, that's the best way to proceed, is to have as many of the people who are affected by government's decisions have input into government's decisions. And the way this ruling and some of the string of Supreme Court decisions over the last century leave us is that we don't have that much impact on how decisions are made anymore.
I think what you say there raises an excellent point, because I do think there are a lot of people who don't really always understand what a democracy should be for them. And I know on your website you kind of go into, aren't we a republic, and what does that mean, and what is democracy, for people to know more. The website, it's www.movetoamend, is it .org. It is .org. And if you want to check that out, it's a great way for you to find out more information, maybe answer some of the questions about the kinds of things that might be on your mind that were on Kathy's mind and that David is speaking about today and explaining so passionately. So we're actually going to go to a break, and then when we come back, we'll talk more with our guests, but we thank you for tuning in with us today.
Chill me to chill out when you're stealing my things?
You're calling us.
I wouldn't have to raise my voice if you would just give it back and stop being like a criminal.
I don't have your cell phone.
Oh
I don't
God,
have
look
your
at
cell phone.
yourself. What are you offering
Is
the
this a
world,
thief's
huh?
uniform?
Oh my
You
God.
see all these people standing around here? Why am I the one? Why
I'm
are you
sorry,
singling me out
homie,
right now?
okay?
What?
Don't make this a big deal. Just give it back, okay?
Did you see me? Did
Yeah,
you see
you
me?
know, I just know you took it.
Where are
Look
your
at yourself.
witnesses?
Look at
Where are your
yourself.
witnesses?
You took my phone.
Did you see me?
Hey, you left us in the bathroom.
Tell me what's bothering you.
As a hot dog, I know I'm responsible for some bad things. Now they say my cholesterol is a risk factor for stroke.
And how does that make you feel?
Like a big weenie.
High cholesterol is an important risk factor for strokes. Eating right and exercising can help. But National Stroke Association wants you to know that even the healthiest people are at risk. So ask your doctor about medicines that can lower cholesterol, like statins. It's even more important if you've already had a stroke. Visit stroke.org today.
Hi everyone, welcome back. You're watching the Lique TV show, and I am joined today by Kathy Lique and David Cobb, and we've been talking about the coalition move to amend and different things going on right now with respect to the political parties and what people's rights are, and what voices you're coming across, and how many people have things they want to see change. So right now, we've been talking about a move to amend. Can you actually talk about the amendment that I know is at the center point of what you all are doing?
Absolutely. I'm absolutely convinced that we will successfully amend the United States Constitution with the 28th Amendment, which will say specifically, explicitly, and clearly that a corporation is not a person, that only human beings can claim inherent and inalienable constitutional rights, and that money is not speech, and that local, state, and federal government have the authority and, in fact, the responsibility to create meaningful, effective campaign finance laws so that we can actually have a debate about how our society operates. So move to amend's language is very simple, and I think, frankly, it's elegant in its simplicity, but in a nutshell, it just says this: only human beings, living, breathing human beings, have constitutional rights, and number two, money is not speech. And whenever I talk about that, I can do it on the T, I can do it at the grocery store, I can do it at a pool hall or a bowling alley, I can do it to ordinary folks who may not be activists, but people understand, like, yeah, of course. And that, being able to talk about it like that, is why, Kathy, we've been able to be so successful at bringing people in and both giving them the civics education that they should have had if we actually had the kind of education that you and I probably had in public schools in this country. And really, and I'll just say it, to help to wake people up to how our country is being stolen from us by a very small minority.
I think a lot of people recognize, we always hear, especially right now with campaigning going on, about the American dream, about people, what it means to be able to be a part of this country and this society. But the things that you're mentioning are things that we expect to have and we should have, but oftentimes people are saying we don't right now, that it's not what it was originally intended to be. Do you feel like a lot of people might not even realize yet just exactly how much is being taken from them?
Well, it's a good question, Cassie, and I'd love to hear Kathy's perspective on it, but I can tell you this, that the American people are at different levels. In other words, when you say the people, where are they on this? I don't know exactly where everybody is, but it's like The Matrix. If your viewers have seen this film, the number of people that are seeing reality for how the system actually operates, that number is growing. We're reaching a tipping point. And that's the reason that so many people are joining Move to Amend who have never been activists before, who have never been involved in, environmental protection or worker safety or the sort of the typical things we talk about, because this is about power, about who's in control of this country. And I'm excited to help to educate those folks and also to let them educate me about what their lived experiences are, and we're creating the circumstances where we're learning from one another. And by engaging people in respectful dialogue, even if I don't agree with everything that somebody says, if I'm respectful to them and they're respectful to me, we end up teaching each other and learning from each other. And that's the process that I think Move to Amend is creating all across this country.
Mm-hmm. How about Kathy, when you talk to other people that you now have as a part of Move to Amend on the North Shore, do you find that a lot of them are coming, of course, with different experiences, but are they feeling similar to you, that just something needs to be done differently?
I think so, yes. I think that so many people see what's going on in the political process these days, and the amount of money that's going into paying for campaigns, which it's so hard to see that that's not going to control that candidate, that's not going to sell that candidate to the source. And what that does to the average voter is to make them feel apathetic and hopeless. And that's the opposite of what a democracy is supposed to do. It's supposed to empower the individual. So I hear that in very different kinds of ways. When we were collecting signatures for the democracy ballot question, I was standing in front of our town hall, and there were people walking by to go in, and you walk up to somebody and say, I'd like to talk to you, and it's not unusual for people to kind of like try and get around you. So I would say, well, this is about, you know, all the money that's flowing into politics these days. And before I got to the next sentence, many people would say, give me the pen. Really, literally. And I've had other people tell that story. You know, that people really are beginning to understand that that's how our democracy isn't working these days, and that we really need to do something. And a democracy being about people taking it over, that's what we have to do. And everybody has to do it. We can't leave it to David.
Right, and that's really so important, because it really is about us, right? And democracy comes from Greek. Demos, the people, kratia, rule, or govern. The people govern, or the people rule. But I want to be clear, what's really interesting and important is that the United States is a democratic republic, which is we're a country of laws, right? And that it means that you have individual rights if you're part of this country. So the one thing the majority can never do is violate your individual rights. Even if 99% of the people agree Cassie should not be allowed to express her political opinion, and we get a law passed in Lynn, and the Massachusetts state government agrees and says Cassie cannot express her opinion, and we go through a democratic process, that law is illegitimate and should be overturned in court, because you have constitutional right to free speech. And that's the reason that liberals and conservatives are coming together at Move to Amend, is the agreement that we may disagree on issues, but on the principle of how our country is supposed to operate, the idea that we the people actually do govern, and that we are sovereign, and that we have the authority and the power to decide how our society operates, but that the one thing that the majority can never do is violate the individual rights of either a human being or a group of human beings. That's the sweet spot for how the Democratic Republic is supposed to operate. And by talking about that in ordinary terms, in ordinary language, to ordinary Americans are reacting and responding, and it's the reason this movement is growing beyond anything that I had hoped whenever we helped to launch it, just 2 short years ago.
Well, we actually only have a few minutes left, and everything that you've said, I think you've explained it quite well for people at home, and now it gives you a chance at home to have an idea more about what this movement is about, what this coalition about, who David Cobb is, and then locally, if you see Kathy, who she is, and what you're really doing. And I want to encourage everyone, again, it's Friday night at North Shore Community College, and we will have a program that will then air it, but we would love for people to be able to turn out in person, because obviously it's a powerful thing to be a part of. But really, just sort of on a parting note, I mean, you said earlier at the start of the show, you were a Green Party candidate, and many people maybe didn't even get to really know who you were, and that goes right back to the heart of, because if you're not allowed to be on programs that are national and international, and if you're not able to be heard or be a part of the conversation, how do people get behind you, or how do people say, I most line up with what this person is saying? So I hope that you'll get to go on a lot of public television places as well, but in the future, I hope the near future, you can also see people like you involved on a national and international level. It would be great if you were parts of debates, if you were parts of conversations, so that we can hear what other people have to say. A lot of people I talk to would like to hear more than just one or the other. They want to hear the few different voices that exist and know what's going on. So thank you so much for your time for the event on Friday, and thank you so much for taking time to be here with us.
My pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks so much. You guys are great.
Thank you so much, Cassie.
Thank you. And thanks for tuning in. So Friday night at North Shore Community College, and if you're tuning into this and you weren't able to go Friday night, we hope that you'll tune in here to hear more from David Cobb. Thank you.